The tale commences by introducing a young woman named Kim Yoonji, who is currently 26 years old. Her occupation revolves around the unique job of being a rented girlfriend for different men. Through her work, she has gathered a collection of the prevailing motives that compel men to seek the services of a temporary romantic partner. Among these motivations, one notable factor is the pressure men experience when required to present a significant other during family gatherings or events. Furthermore, Yoonji identifies another common motivation: men seeking to flaunt and showcase their social status among peers. At present, Yoonji is on a date, acting as a hired girlfriend alongside a man named Dushik and his friends, who appear skeptical about their relationship. The situation feels uncomfortable for her, and she responds with nervous laughter, trying to convince them that she and Dushik have been dating for 100 days. Dushik, however, leans in and whispers, urging her to be more convincing and warning her of the consequences if she fails. To stress his point, he breaks a bottle and uses it to intimidate her, asserting that his friends are unaware of the intensity of their supposed love. This action leaves Yoonji unsettled, questioning Dushik's true intentions. Under pressure, Dushik instructs Yoonji to display public affection to dispel his friend's suspicions. In response, Yoonji licks his face, feeling it's the most she can manage. Later, after his friends leave, Dushik berates her for what he deems a lackluster performance. He reminds her that he paid for her services, implying that their arrangement carries certain expectations. Becoming physically aggressive, he pokes her forehead and questions her integrity, comparing her to a street thug who's just after easy money. He further belittles her by likening her to a prostitute, suggesting she relies solely on her looks without offering anything of substance. He flings money from his wallet at Yoonji as payment for the earlier PDA and tells her to take it and leave. Yoonji picks the money off the floor and verifies the amount. She reflects briefly, feeling she's achieved a small win today by exerting minimal effort during the date. She clings to her appearance as her main selling point, her blue eyes, fair skin, and figure, believing those to be her only assets. This self-assurance helps her cope, as she feels she lacks anything else of value. She considers using the money to buy herself fish-shaped pastries, taking comfort in these small indulgences to ease the weight of her circumstances. At her age, Yoonji wrestles with the concept of youth versus aging, referring to this period as the age of limbo. Upon returning home, she announces her arrival to no one in particular and prepares to shower before bed. As she lies down, she scrolls through her phone, gazing at images of Segreal Apartments, Korea's most luxurious residential complex. She dreams of living there someday, whether by marrying into wealth or earning enough herself. Her social media feed often leaves her feeling depressed, as she compares herself to friends who seem to lead more fulfilling lives, and a former crush who now appears successful. These comparisons hint at her struggles with an inferiority complex. To remain optimistic, she reminds herself of her diligent savings, her hard work, and the enjoyable meals she shares with men during her dates. These small comforts fuel her hope that one day, she'll live in Segreal Apartments. Her phone emits a soft beep. It's a notification from a new client, Moon Sung-hyun. She feels a sense of satisfaction, noting that he's quite attractive, but quickly recalls that handsome men often come with strange personalities. In her experience, a good-looking man hiring a girlfriend often indicates underlying issues. Remembering a disturbing incident with a previous client who had inappropriate intentions, she decides to first converse with Sung-hyun to ensure he seems normal. After a chat, they reach an understanding and agree to move forward. A few days later, the date arrives. Yoonji prepares to meet her new client, Moon Sung-hyun. Upon seeing him in person, she realizes he's even more attractive and comes across as direct and soft-spoken. As they meet, he reminds her of her role, pretending to be his girlfriend, and then drives them to their destination. While en route to the restaurant, Yoonji recognizes the familiar surroundings. It's Segreal Apartments, the place she's long admired. Curious, she asks if the restaurant is located there. He confirms it, and she comments on how expensive the area is, which doesn't seem to concern him, hinting at his wealth. Once they step out of the car, he reveals they'll be dining at a place called Venice. She responds with a detailed description and its location, which surprises him. He asks how she knows so much, and she casually explains her fascination with Seagrill apartments. He reminds her again to act like his girlfriend, which makes her feel increasingly nervous. They arrive at the restaurant and are approached by a woman who begins questioning Sung-hyun about his relationship, upset that he brought a new girlfriend despite her request. He defends his actions, stating he only followed her instructions to bring his new girlfriend for a meeting. Still skeptical, the woman questions how he found someone so quickly. In response, Sung-hyun takes Yoonji's hand and boldly declares that she is now the love of his life. Oddly, Yoonji feels a moment of warmth from his touch, despite knowing she shouldn't be developing any emotional attachment to a client. Eventually, the woman decides to leave, saying that merely looking at his face ruins her appetite. She stands, wishes him well, and departs. It's revealed that this woman is actually Sung-hyun's ex-girlfriend. After witnessing the tense exchange, Yoonji finds herself speechless. Feeling overwhelmed, she excuses herself and heads to the restroom. On her way, she takes a moment to process the surreal reality of being inside Seagrill apartments. Suddenly, she bumps into another woman. To her surprise, the woman recognizes her as Luna from the 130th floor. This unexpected recognition catches Yoonji off guard. It turns out that Yoonji had lied about only knowing Seagrill apartments from videos. She had actually lived there herself until just a year ago. At one time, she had been affluent enough to call this luxurious building home. She quickly recalls the time when she lived a luxurious life back in middle school. The girl she ran into asks about Luna, Yoonji, and wonders where she's been, but Yoonji is certain the girl hasn't heard any rumors about her yet. As it turns out, her family had faced financial difficulties, forcing each of them to go their separate ways. Yoonji changed her phone number, deactivated her social media accounts, and although it's been a year since everything happened, she still hasn't been able to move back to Seagrill apartments. The lady invites her to catch up over a meal since it's been a while, but Yoonji feels uncomfortable and politely declines, then quickly hurries away. She returns to her table and finds her client still sitting there, visibly upset and crying. She had intended to tell him their time was up, but seeing him in such a vulnerable state, she couldn't bring herself to leave abruptly. She's never seen a man cry like this before, so she gently asks if he's okay and reassures him that he'll eventually find someone better. However, he doesn't respond. Feeling her presence may not be of much comfort, she hands him her card, tells him to contact her if he ever needs anything, and says goodbye. But just as she's about to walk away, he grabs her hand and pleads with her to stay. He offers to pay for more of her time, but she explains that she has another client scheduled and can't extend the date. That's when he clarifies that he's not asking her to go somewhere else. He lives in Seagrill apartments, specifically on the 130th floor. In fact, he's moved into her old unit. Hearing this, Yoonji is taken aback but agrees to go with him, thinking that perhaps it's fate, her spot is meant to be reclaimed. Together, they head to the elevator and ascend. Upon arriving at the apartment, he kindly offers her a beverage, but she seems distant, lost in her own thoughts. Her mind drifts as she reflects on how little has changed since she last lived here a year ago. She notices how everything remains the same, even the furniture is untouched. He hands her a glass of the drink, and she begins sipping slowly. Her eyes fall upon a painting she once made for her mother, still hanging in the same place. Beside it, she notices a stain on the carpet, a faded but clear memory of when she accidentally spilled a drink she had prepared for her mom. It's a small detail, but one that brings back a flood of emotions from that time. Sung-hyun apologizes for bringing her here so unexpectedly and assures her that this isn't typical of him. He emphasizes that today is different. After a few rounds of wine, their bond grows stronger, culminating in a few shared kisses. Sensing that the moment is escalating quickly, Sung-hyun excuses himself to freshen up. Meanwhile, Yoonji sits quietly, contemplating the nature of everything that's happened, and how strange it feels to be reacquainting herself with this once familiar space. While Sung-hyun is taking a shower, Yoonji begins to observe her surroundings. She stumbles upon a set of knives and, on impulse, picks one up. She briefly contemplates the idea of harming him as a way to regain control of the apartment. However, she quickly acknowledges that she's incapable of committing such an extreme act. The thought alone overwhelms her, and she starts to worry that her mental state may be deteriorating further. In that moment, she reminds herself of her upcoming psychiatric appointment scheduled for the following day. When Sung-hyun finally emerges from the bathroom, now fully dressed, Yoonji is puzzled by the sudden shift in his demeanor. He seems shy or withdrawn. She casually suggests they return to the bedroom, but he hesitates, expressing uncertainty about continuing anything further that day. Despite his reluctance, Yoonji persists, urging him to take off his pants, but his enthusiasm has clearly waned. He reassures her that he still has her contact information and promises to reach out. Taking the hint, Yoonji decides to leave. Back at home, Yoonji takes her prescribed medication, which helps stabilize her mood. Still, she finds herself fixated on the fact that someone else now resides in what was once her home. What unsettles her most is that he hasn't changed a single thing, not the furniture, not even the decor. This baffles her and makes her consider reaching out to her mother for answers. In her mind, she starts to rationalize a new plan. If she can successfully make Sung-hyun her boyfriend, she might be able to reclaim the house. The next day arrives, and Yoonji heads to her regular psychiatric appointment, a routine she has followed for the past year to manage her depression and related issues. During the session, her psychiatrist asks about her recent week. Yoonji opens up, admitting she had a dark thought about stabbing someone with a knife as a way to fix her problems. She shares that her impulsive thoughts have been getting worse over time. She then reveals new information she learned. One of her clients, Sung-hyun, now lives in the very apartment her family lost when they were wealthy. This revelation triggered her desire to harm him and reclaim what she lost. The psychiatrist probes further, asking whether her urge to hurt him stems from her longing to return to that home. Yoonji admits it does and even outlines a plan to turn Sung-hyun into her boyfriend to regain ownership. The psychiatrist warns her that this kind of single-minded fixation could push her toward dangerous decisions. He advises her to consider other ways of rebuilding her life. Yoonji defends herself, saying she isn't obsessed with just one path. She acknowledges there might be other solutions, like earning more money. Sometimes, she struggles to fully grasp the doctor's words, but her affection for him motivates her to listen and try to understand. After the session, Yoonji calls her mother to ask about Segreal apartments. She specifically wants to know if their belongings, marked with seizure stickers, were taken along with the apartment. Her mother confirms that everything was seized by the new tenant, since the items were still valuable and in good condition. Yoonji then asks if her mother knows anything about the people now living there, but her mother says she doesn't, explaining that the situation was too chaotic to keep track. Yoonji clarifies that she asked out of curiosity, then ends the call. Suddenly, she remembers that Sung-hyun hasn't contacted her yet. Impatience starts to creep in, and she regrets not getting his number or insisting on spending more time together. Just then, her phone beeps. It's a notification from a new client. Shockingly, it's her psychiatrist, Yoo Ha-sung. He requests to meet the following day, a suggestion that catches her completely off guard. The idea of her doctor becoming a client both surprises and intrigues her. She wonders if this could lead to a deeper, more personal connection between them. Then, out of nowhere, she receives a call from an unfamiliar number. It's Sung-hyun. He requests to meet her at Segreal Apartments at exactly 6 o'clock the next day. Coincidentally, this is the same time Dr. Yoo had suggested. Faced with a scheduling conflict, she nervously suggests meeting Sung-hyun earlier instead. But he's firm, his time is fixed, and he insists on 6 o'clock. After the call ends, she sends Sung-hyun a message explaining she has other plans at that time. But Sung-hyun remains adamant. He emphasizes the importance of the meeting and even offers her extra money as an incentive. His assertiveness stuns her and leaves her wondering if he sees her as someone easily swayed by money. To buy herself time, she replies that she needs to think about it. Despite her determination to do whatever it takes to reclaim her former home, she finds herself increasingly confused about her growing feelings for her doctor. Her thoughts drift back to a pivotal moment in her life, saving her mother from a suicide attempt brought on by financial ruin. That incident continues to fuel her anxiety about her mother's well-being. Amid all this emotional chaos, she receives a follow-up message from Sung-hyun, reaffirming his eagerness to see her the next day. It is the next day, and Yoonji is currently on her way to meet Sung-hyun. With a sense of purpose, she brings condoms along, prepared for the possibility of engaging in sexual activity with him today, part of her strategy to reclaim the house she once shared with her mother. She recalls advice she once received, warning that unexpected emotions may surface through intimacy, so she reminds herself to stay cautious and avoid becoming emotionally attached. Sung-hyun sends her the address for their meeting, and to her surprise, it's his home address. This choice leads Yoonji to believe that he intends to be a bit daring today. She even imagines him in a seductive robe, surrounded by bottles of wine and a romantic atmosphere. But upon arriving at the 130th floor, she finds him dressed in a suit, his hair neatly slicked back. His formal appearance doesn't align with the intimate scene she had envisioned. He instructs her to change into designer clothes he has already purchased, prompting her to wonder about the cost of these luxurious items. During their interaction, he compliments her eyes and suggests she remove any contact lenses she might be wearing. She firmly insists that her blue eyes are natural, a trait often admired about her. Still, Sung-hyun calls for a pair of black contact lenses, expressing doubt about the authenticity of her eye color. He struggles to believe that her blue eyes are real. He then explains that they are going to meet his uncle and emphasizes the importance of formal attire. He's concerned that his uncle might misinterpret her eye color, suspecting she's wearing lenses even if her eyes are naturally beautiful. Upon arriving at their destination, she complies and wears the black contact lenses, though they leave her eyes dry and irritated. Sung-hyun proceeds to inform her that he plans to introduce her as his fiancée, framing the entire encounter as just another job. This shatters Yoonji's expectations. Her hopes of deepening their personal connection collapse in an instant. They arrive at the venue for the meeting with his uncle, which turns out to be the VIP room of the Centrio restaurant on the 89th floor. As the door opens, his uncle steps in. With polite smiles, both Yoonji and Sung-hyun rise to greet him, and he offers them seats. The conversation begins with his uncle asking about Sung-hyun's engagement plans and his vision for the future. He expresses regret for lecturing his nephew so soon after sitting down and hopes his words are taken seriously, as they come from a place of care. Yoonji silently questions why the uncle's tone feels slightly offensive so early in the conversation. They had only just taken their seats. In response, Sung-hyun addresses his uncle's concerns, admitting that rebuilding trust will take time. That's why he's determined to demonstrate his responsibility and reliability. The uncle smirks playfully and turns his attention to Yoonji, asking whether she's truly okay with marrying someone like Sung-hyun. Caught off guard by his phrasing, Yoonji laughs softly and assures him that she's perfectly fine with it. After all, their love is strong. As he observes her closely, the uncle suddenly experiences a flash of recognition. Something about Yoonji reminds him of Chairman Kim's daughter. However, he dismisses the thought, reasoning that the person he's thinking of had blue eyes, something Yoonji doesn't have at the moment due to her black lenses. Still, something about her feels off. With a decisive tone, the uncle announces there's no need to prolong their discussion. He acknowledges Sung-hyun's commitment to the engagement and states that future conversations can happen without formal meetings. With that, he stands and takes his leave. Back on the 130th floor, the two return to Sung-hyun's apartment. Looking weary, he pours himself a drink. His gestures reflect frustration. He pulls off his tie, runs a hand through his hair, and sighs heavily. Sensing his mood, Yoonji offers to change out of the expensive clothes he had bought for her. But with a gentle, pleading tone, he asks her not to leave again. Yoonji interprets this as the opportunity she's been waiting for. Given the situation, she agrees to stay. From her point of view, a few drinks shared between two people who have already kissed doesn't feel like a big deal. As the evening unfolds and their drinks are consumed, the atmosphere gradually shifts. A quiet intimacy settles between them as they begin removing layers of clothing. Their affection deepens through lingering kisses, and his hands begin tracing her body, drawing soft, involuntary sounds from her lips. Eventually, in this moment of heightened closeness, he reaches for her hand and asks gently if she's ready, setting the stage for what's to come. Just as the moment begins to grow more serious, Yoonji interrupts. She reminds Sung-hyun that he forgot about protection, then swiftly produces the condoms she had prepared before coming on the date. Her readiness catches him by surprise, and he asks whether she had been hoping for this outcome. She nods in affirmation, prompting a soft smile from him as he gently caresses her cheek. As he gazes at her, a memory from his past involving a sorrowful incident with his parents suddenly surfaces. The weight of that memory causes him to lose interest in the romantic moment they were sharing. He wraps his arms around her and apologizes, explaining that he can't go through with it. The sudden shift catches Yoonji off guard and leaves her feeling slightly annoyed. She begins to wonder if Sung-hyun might be dealing with erectile dysfunction. Internally, Sung-hyun reflects on his decision not to become physically intimate with her before revealing a personal secret. He apologizes again, acknowledging that he has taken up her time without progressing things further. Determined not to let the opportunity pass, Yoonji urges him to kiss her. She pulls him close and initiates a kiss, but he suddenly stops and says, "That's enough." His abrupt withdrawal prompts her to ask whether he dislikes her. Rather than answering directly, he avoids the question and instead decides to call a taxi for her. Eventually, the taxi arrives. Before leaving, Yoonji gently reminds him to reach out whenever he needs her. Back at home, Yoonji is overcome with emotion and begins to cry. Sitting alone with her thoughts, she reflects that her emotional instability might be tied to her manic depression. She questions whether there's something inherently unappealing about her, why Sung-hyun seemed so uninterested in intimacy despite her efforts. As she continues to reflect, especially considering that she views herself as an above-average woman with both good looks and a great physique, a sobering realization sets in. She begins to feel that her worth might be confined to the role of a girlfriend for hire, and this painful thought might be the true reason behind her tears. Once, Yoonji lived according to her own terms. She had the luxury of doing the bare minimum while still earning enough to live lavishly. But everything changed after her family fell into financial ruin. Forced into hardship, she came to accept that her appearance might be her only remaining asset. In the present moment, feeling a mix of shame and longing, she reaches out to her ex-boyfriend, Tae-hoon, and admits that she misses him. Surprisingly, Tae-hoon responds warmly, agreeing to come over, driven largely by his own sense of loneliness. Currently, Yoonji is still engaged in a conversation with her ex-partner over the phone. He asks whether she's now open to having some enjoyable experiences with other men. He wonders if she has finally moved beyond phrases like "I'm scared" or "I'm not ready," because if those hesitations still exist, he makes it clear that he won't come over to her place. He adds that by now, she should know exactly what every guy wants. In response, Yoonji firmly states that she has no intention of engaging in a sexual relationship with him. He replies by suggesting that she should go back to the psychiatric clinic she seems so fond of and continue getting treatment. With that, he abruptly ends the call. From Yoonji's perspective, his cold attitude stems from unresolved issues between them, specifically, the way she turned down his sexual advances near the end of their relationship. That rejection triggered intense arguments, eventually leading to their breakup. Yet, in this moment, she finds herself feeling distraught over another man, Sung-hyun, not wanting to be intimate with her. She regrets not choosing to meet her psychiatrist instead and reflects on how she's lamenting her decisions without fully understanding why. As her ex suggested, Yoonji has leaned heavily on her psychiatrist for quite some time. But deep down, she realizes that her psychiatrist sees her only as a patient, nothing more. Looking back to a year ago, she recalls just how deeply she struggled with her mental health. That period of emotional instability explains why she once found herself listening intently to a group of people trying to recruit her into their religion. As they spoke, her mind became flooded with countless voices, all carrying dark, suicidal thoughts. In another scene, Yoonji visits her psychiatrist. During their session, she confesses that she feels like her life might come to an end this week, emphasizing that she genuinely means it. She insists that her words aren't hollow or repetitive. She wants him to understand the depth of her pain. The doctor calmly assures her that he will support her through this difficult time. He asks whether she has been taking her medications as prescribed over the past week. Internally, Yoonji feels grateful for his continued presence and the comfort he provides during her emotional lows. She watches his hand as it moves quickly across the page, scribbling down notes, and finds herself wondering what he's writing. Amid this curiosity, she realizes she admires the way he holds his pen, and that she holds a quiet fondness for him. The doctor then tells Yoonji that he plans to increase her medication dosage and urges her to follow the new regimen more carefully this time. However, she chooses not to follow his advice. In her mind, the medication won't truly change anything. Despite this belief, an unexpected shift takes place. Week after week, as her life fluctuates, the doctor remains a steady, calming presence. Over time, Yoonji's feelings begin to evolve. She starts looking forward to her appointments with him. No matter how chaotic her life becomes, he is always there, offering a sense of stability. This makes her genuinely appreciate him in ways that go beyond the clinical. Yoonji begins to question her emotions, why she sees him not just as a doctor, but as a man. Quickly, she tries to pull herself back to reality, reminding herself that she's his patient and he is her psychiatrist. She picks up her phone, contemplating whether or not to call Sung-hyun. Given the way they recently parted, she's unsure if he'll answer. Instead of calling for a chat, she simply decides to let him know she made it home safely. To her surprise, he answers. She expresses concern that they might never see each other again. In response, he reassures her that's not the case. He admits there's something important he wants to share in person, but he's struggling to find the courage. Then, he confesses that he committed a crime in the past and asks if she would still be willing to listen. Upon hearing the news, Yoonji rushes to meet Sung-hyun and immediately notices that he appears unwell. As she holds his hands, she realizes they're sweaty and trembling as they walk together indoors. He expresses embarrassment about meeting again under such circumstances and worries that she might think he's silly or selfish. But Yoonji is simply grateful. She tells him she's glad he's finally opening up to her. He thanks her and admits that he's rehearsed 100 different ways to tell her what he's about to say. Then, with visible effort, he finally reveals that he killed his father. He explains that his father used to drink excessively and often became violent toward his mother. On the day in question, his father reached for a knife instead of his fists. Sung-hyun had no choice but to intervene to protect his mother, and in the process, his father ended up injured. Despite his intention to defend himself and his mother, the law deemed it manslaughter. He was sentenced to a year and a month in prison, though he was released early on parole under the condition that he wear an electronic ankle monitor. Yoonji then asks about his mother, and with deep sadness, he reveals that she had already suffered injuries beyond saving. She passed away that same day. While Yoonji knows she shouldn't take advantage of the moment for her own desires, she seizes the opportunity and offers to spend the night with him. They begin to undress, and Sung-hyun starts to kiss and touch her, prompting quiet sounds of pleasure from her lips. Later on, he switches positions and continues with renewed energy until they finish their activities, after which he eventually falls asleep. Yoonji, still wide awake, lies beside him, replaying everything that just happened in her mind. She's wondering whether this means they've officially entered a romantic relationship. Her thoughts are suddenly interrupted when he shifts closer and asks why she isn't sleeping yet. As he speaks, he begins kissing her and initiating physical contact once again. As things escalate, he gently asks her to stop teasing him, admitting that it's making him eager to go another round. They're both tempted to continue, but they soon realize they've run out of condoms. Yoonji suggests they proceed without one, but he refuses, voicing concerns about the potential risks. Instead, he suggests they simply get some sleep. Unexpectedly, Sung-hyun's phone begins to vibrate, an incoming call from his uncle. He answers, questioning why he's calling at such a late hour. His uncle pointedly remarks on Sung-hyun's activity despite wearing an electronic ankle monitor. Then, the tone shifts as his uncle brings up Sung-hyun's recent visit to a lawyer, asking about the purpose behind it. Sung-hyun gives a brief, non-specific answer, saying it was just a personal consultation. Growing frustrated, his uncle demands to know what Sung-hyun is planning and warns him not to continue down this path. He then explicitly states that if things carry on like this, he doesn't want Sung-hyun associating with Yoonji any longer. When Sung-hyun asks for a reason, his uncle offers only a vague response, saying he simply has a bad feeling about her. Yoonji wakes up in the morning, her mind filled with curiosity about Sung-hyun's whereabouts. There's a unique sense of anticipation as she finds herself once more in the comfort of Seogryul apartments after a considerable span of time. As she lies there, lost in thought, Sung-hyun re-enters the room, his presence catching her attention. With a warm smile, she greets him and directly raises the question about the nature of their relationship now. However, her query is met with silence from him, leaving her uncertain. He reassures her that he'll get in touch later, conveying that he doesn't wish for their interaction to conclude on such terms. Yoonji's frustration mounts as she questions whether she holds any appeal in his eyes. She wonders if he perceives her as someone easily taken for granted, lacking any meaningful contribution. The thought of being regarded as disposable because of her role as a rented girlfriend weighs on her, and the idea that she allowed herself to envision a future with him makes her feel deeply disheartened. Unable to contain her emotions, she swiftly departs from his residence, denying him the opportunity to respond. Her departure is accompanied by a vow never to return to his place. She declares her determination to return to Seogryul apartments under her own financial means. Amidst her tears, her words carry an air of self-directed anger and disappointment. Later on, she is headed to the psychiatric clinic, even though she has no planned appointment for the day. Bursting into her doctor's office, she urgently requests him to spend the night with her, sharing that it's her only wish. The doctor inquires about her troubles, and she explains that she had a sexual encounter with a client she had previously mentioned, but he rejected her afterward. Despite the doctor's attempts to console her, she remains inconsolable. Once back at her home, she discovers a surplus of stronger pills in her medicine pack. Fast forward to the next week. She is at home when a rent payment reminder pops up, and having paid her dues, she's left with no funds. Faced with this financial predicament, she contemplates returning to work. Unexpectedly, her phone is flooded with notifications from clients due to her week-long absence. After some contemplation, she makes up her mind to meet with a client named Seo Haru. Upon meeting him, she introduces herself, and he promptly begins to gather his belongings, indicating their readiness to leave. During this interaction, she notices a tattoo on his body, sparking curiosity about whether he might have a connection to gang-related activities. As they stroll along, Seo Haru surprises her by asking if he can hold her hand, displaying a desire for a deeper connection. He says, "You don't have to hold my hands if you don't want to." She responds by asking where they are going. She's curious if they're meeting someone else, but he doesn't seem to have a clear reason for calling her. She wonders if he simply asked her out on a date, given his fashionable attire. She also thinks he must have many female friends, judging from his appearance. They arrive at a restaurant and place their orders, and the food arrives quickly while they talk. He starts by asking about her age, and then he inquires about the people she meets in her line of work, and she answers his questions. He asks again why she chose to do this job, and this question brings tears to her eyes immediately. Seeing her cry, he starts apologizing for asking such a strange question, and she replies that she's only doing the job for the money. Apparently, they've gone to another restaurant for another round of food. She questions his decision to ask her a question like that. Just as he's about to answer her question, she interrupts him, suggesting that he should stop calling her Miss Yoonji and call her Nuna instead. She finds him cute and wonders if this is what her little brother would have been like if she had one. This thought reminds her of her big brother in America, whom she hasn't talked to in ages. He notices that she's been drinking too much while they talk. He also compliments her, saying she gets prettier every time he looks at her. As they walk together after leaving the restaurant, he asks to see her again and requests her phone number while pleading with her not to reject him. Later that day, when Haru gets home, he's on a call with a friend who tries to use insulting words to describe Yoonji. Haru warns his friend and threatens to harm him if he continues talking about her like that. On the other hand, Yoonji is currently thinking that maybe she should have had more to drink earlier, as she's having trouble falling asleep. Her mind is consumed by thoughts of her recent encounter with Sung-hyun. Suddenly, her phone buzzes with a notification from a new client. It turns out to be Dr. Yu again. Yoonji takes her time getting ready for their meeting today. As she heads to meet him, she is taken by surprise because this is the first time she's seen him dressed so casually. She approaches him and introduces herself as his girlfriend for the day. At the company where Yoonji works, which specializes in providing companionship services, employees can access information about all the clients. However, clients cannot see the faces of the employees when they make their selections, so this means that Dr. Yu had no idea Yoonji was the one fulfilling his request. When he realizes she is his date, he attempts to cancel the request, expressing his discomfort with dating a patient. In her efforts to persuade him to stay, Yoonji asks him why he sought the services of a girlfriend for hire and expresses her desire to be of help to him. This takes the doctor by surprise, and after a moment's pause, he invites her to go for coffee, which she accepts. Yoonji is puzzled by how she has somehow entered Dr. Yu's personal life. As they sit in a restaurant, they discuss their menu choices while conversing about Yoonji's previous life of privilege. Suddenly, the doctor's phone rings, and he excuses himself to take the call. While waiting for him, she overhears someone talking about a similar experience she had earlier. When she turns around, she discovers that it's Sung-hyun's uncle from their previous date. From what she overhears, she begins to suspect that Sung-hyun rejected her not out of dislike but because he may actually have strong feelings for her. Dr. Yu returns from his phone call and discovers that Yoonji has left, leaving behind an apologetic note. Quickly, she rushes over to Sung-hyun's house, where he has been pondering her visit even before she arrives. Yoonji wonders if he will open the door for her because she believes he might already be tired of her presence. The door makes a clicking sound as Sung-hyun opens it, welcoming her inside with hugs and kisses. He gently guides her legs in between his thighs, creating a sensuous atmosphere, and they decide to go inside to become more intimate. After they finish their intimate moment, Sung-hyun goes to freshen up, leaving Yoonji alone in the room. Yoonji gets up and approaches a painting she had once created for her mom. While she gazes at the artwork, Sung-hyun returns to the room and inquires about what she is doing with the painting. Out of fear, she begins to wonder if she has been discovered, but it turns out he asked out of curiosity. He comments on the picture, remarking that the painting appears to be the work of an amateur. However, it brings him joy every time he gazes upon it, which is why he has never taken it down. He then turns to her and confides that he has something important to share. He goes on to explain that when he told her he couldn't be her boyfriend, it wasn't because he didn't like her, but rather because his uncle had forbidden him from seeing her anymore. She responds by revealing that she already knew about the situation. Apparently, his uncle had proudly boasted about it at a cafe and even threatened to harm her. Sung-hyun expresses his sincere apologies for subjecting her to such distressing information. In response, she expresses her regret that they can't continue their relationship because of this, but she remains determined to pursue it. She implores him to continue meeting in secret, regardless of the risks posed by his uncle's threats. They both agree to maintain a discreet friends with benefits arrangement for the time being, engaging in intimate encounters to satisfy their desires. Their meeting point is set at his apartment on the 130th floor of the Segreal Apartments. She is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve her goal while in this shallow relationship, all the while mutually fulfilling their physical desires. In the present moment, after finishing their activities, Yoonji begins to notice a delightful aroma and becomes curious about its source. With this curiosity, she proceeds to the kitchen and is taken aback by the sight of Sung-hyun cooking. It's quite a surprise to her, as she didn't expect him to possess culinary skills. Intrigued, she inquires about the cooking, and he kindly instructs her to take a seat at the dining table, assuring her that he will bring the meal to her once it's ready. Yoonji quickly goes to prepare herself and then settles down at the table. Eager to engage in conversation, she asks about his plans for the day, and he responds by mentioning his work commitment, having to check in at 9 o'clock. As the meal is served, she expresses her gratitude and bids him farewell. Afterwards, she boards a bus to head home. However, her peaceful journey is suddenly interrupted when she receives an urgent message from her workplace. It's from Seo Haru, who proposes a meetup for the following day. Yoonji contemplates politely declining because she has recently reconnected with Sung-hyun. Nevertheless, Seo Haru insists, claiming to have a compelling reason this time, even going so far as to promise another delightful meal. Eventually, Yoonji concedes and agrees to the meeting. Upon her return home, she encounters Taehoon inside her house. He suggests they go to her room, likely to continue their conversation or engage in some other activity. 8 months earlier, a memory from Yoonji's past resurfaces, one that involves her ex-boyfriend, Taehoon. She remembers a time when she dreamed of living with him in a house forever, a place where they had once created cherished moments. It was during this time that Taehoon had proposed an unusual idea, becoming a girlfriend for hire. His reason was simple, he didn't want her to remain jobless. Now, back in the present, both of them are in Yoonji's room. Taehoon unexpectedly pulls out a car key, proudly announcing that he recently closed a big business deal and traded in his old car for a new one. He mentions wanting to shower, but Yoonji feels uncomfortable. She tells him he should freshen up at his own place, but he heads into the bathroom before she can finish her sentence. Not long after, Taehoon walks out of the bathroom and casually asks if she has any pants he can borrow. She hands him a pair, and he then lies down on the bed, though it's clear Yoonji has no intention of getting physically involved with him. Taehoon responds by claiming he doesn't sleep with women who are already in relationships. He reaches out to hold her hand and pulls her a little closer before asking whether her current boyfriend is better than he was in bed. He begins making a move, but Yoonji firmly pushes him back, telling him she's not interested in anything romantic. Taehoon smirks and questions whether she's still not ready for a relationship or if she's truly with someone new. She confirms she is, and adds that her current partner is far better than Taehoon, especially since he lives in Segreal apartments. Hearing this, Taehoon criticizes her for clinging to the past, saying she's still chasing old glories instead of moving forward. He remarks that coming to see her might have been a waste of his time. Then, almost dismissively, he says that if he were in her shoes, he'd try becoming a writer. As he opens the door with a loud creak, he walks out. Left alone and bored, Yoonji scrolls through social media to pass the time. That's when she stumbles on a news article announcing the shutdown of a makeup company. Shockingly, it turns out to be her mother's business. Before she can process the news, a call from Sung-hyun comes in. He checks in on her and casually invites her to a movie date. Right now, we have Seo Haru, who's trying to come up with stories for his webcomic. As he's deep in thought, a message from Yoonji pops up, letting him know she's on her way to meet him. When she arrives, they exchange greetings, but Haru is completely taken aback by her beauty. In his mind, she almost seems like an angel. Wanting to make the most of their time together, he suggests they leave their current location. They end up at a studio, where Haru reveals that he's an artist. He confesses that he struggles with capturing the natural movements of people in his drawings. He admits that he originally just wanted to go on a date with Yoonji but came up with an excuse to avoid seeming like he had ulterior motives. Haru, with a hint of uncertainty, tells Yoonji that he could quickly sketch her if she's willing, but if she's not comfortable with it, they can postpone it to another time. Yoonji agrees and expresses her interest in seeing the sketch once it's completed. After finishing the sketch, Haru nervously shows it to her, unsure of its quality. To his surprise, Yoonji finds the portrait amazing and thanks him for capturing her beauty so well. She insists on returning the favor by sketching Haru. He's astonished by the image she creates and compliments her skills. Yoonji humbly mentions that she feels a bit out of practice since it's been a while. In a playful tone, Haru teases her that he might use the sketch as his phone wallpaper. Yoonji starts to realize that it's almost time for her to finish work, so she decides it's time to leave. However, just as she's getting ready to go, Haru tells her that they still have one more minute together. In that moment, Haru wonders what he can do in just 1 minute and asks if he can give Yoonji a hug. Yoonji agrees, and they share a brief embrace. After a little while, Yoonji gently reminds him that their 1-minute moment is over. Ready for the next part? Type darling in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an update. And hey, check out the description box for more must-watch manhwa recommendations. Bye.